you for doing it.
Now, I'm glad you mentioned before, just to go back to the point of signing, let's say, a credit card agreement or airline tickets. I mean, there's a lot of fine print, you know, in 4 to 6 font on the back of those agreements, and people just sign them without really reading them. Should they be reading the fine print, or would it get them all jumbled up, or would it get them depressed if they knew what was on the back?
Oh, it might get them depressed. I mean, at least in theory, if it's a consumer transaction, contracts legally are supposed to be written in a way that someone can understand what they're reading. A lot of people, it's true, don't read everything that's there. You really have to. You just don't know what is hiding in the fine print. When I lease a car, the guy already knows who he's dealing with, and he'll hand me the lease and go out for breakfast. I'm going to go back. I'm serious.
Yeah.
He goes out and he has breakfast.
Yeah.
He knows I'm going to sit there and I'm going to read through this whole thing. The average person doesn't do that. They should. Well, frankly, part of the reason I do it was because, you know, if you screw this up and you're a lawyer, you look really kind of stupid. But it really is, you know, it is binding. You never know what's going to be there. It could be something that is very important. May mean walking away. And that can be part of the problem. When you're talking about, say, a person going in, and, you know, the kind of contract you're talking about where, you know, the business prepares a certain contract that their customers enter into, and it's got a lot of this fine print. Most of the time, they're not all that open to negotiating it, but still, you want to know what's there before you sign. You don't want to find out when things go wrong that there's this clause that you didn't even look at that puts you in a very bad place.
Well, is there any type of plea that somebody could say, oh, well, I didn't read it, or, well, I didn't know that was there, or is it basically, you know, enter at your own risk?
I didn't read it doesn't work. There are certain outs that have been deliberately designed under the law to protect consumers. So, for example, if somebody comes to your home and you sign a contract, while they're there, you have a period of time in which you can look at that contract afterwards and get out of the deal just by signing something and sending it in by a certain amount of time. Ironically, some people think that this law is broader than it is. You know, that any time you sign a contract, you've got this. It's not true, but it is true if they come to your house. If you buy a car, the agreement usually says something about if the dealer is providing the financing. That until you're actually given what the financing is going to be, you can get out of the deal. Now, that was more a credit thing, and, you know, not all people do finance through the dealer. If you're using a bank, this doesn't work. But that's there also. So you do have some circumstances where you can, it's not so much I didn't read it, but in spite of the fact that it's there, you can get out. There are not very many things like that.
So it's best to know what you're signing.
Know what you're signing. If you're reading something that really disturbs you, and you're doing something that, you know, is not a very minor thing, and not too many people are asked to sign a contract that's not minor, ask for an opportunity to show it to your lawyer. Even if you don't have one, even if you're just going to go back and think about it. If you have one, all the better, or get one if it's something really important. If the person doesn't want to give you that opportunity, that's a warning signal. Something's going on. They don't want you to look into this further.
Right. Now, final question. We only have a few minutes left. But let's say a situation arises where you and I enter into a contract, whether it's verbal or written. Let's say it's written, so we have it binding between us, and I want to back out. What happens? Can I back out? Would I have any outs? Would those be provisions that would be written inside the contract?
Yes and no to all of that. Well,
It seems like the typical legal answer.
I mean,
right?
yeah, I mean, there can be contracts that do give you an out for no reason. A contract that would allow you to terminate without cause. Those are not particularly common for obvious reasons. They don't provide anyone with much in the way of protection.
Well, let's say I say to you, I agree to sell you my car.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, 2 days later, I get a better offer.
Right.
Can I?
And you've signed the paper.
Yes.
Well, it is a yes or no thing. The answer is yes with a but. I mean, yes, you can get out to some degree. In other words, nobody can force you to buy the car. I guess on the type of thing where this comes up the most often, you sign a lease on an apartment. Mm-hmm. You want to move out of that apartment before the lease is up. Mm-hmm. They can't force you to stay there.
Right.
So yes, you can always get out. The question is, how much is it going to cost to get out?
So it's, I guess, the classic yes with a but, no with an
right.
if.
The but is you did sign a contract. It's very, very rare for a court to order someone to fulfill the contract, but if you've damaged the other party by canceling the deal, you may find that you have to pay. So let's say you agreed to buy a car from someone for $10,000, and then you discover that you can buy the car somewhere else for $5,000. Well, that's a big difference, and you may want out. If you cancel the deal, and the person you were buying the car from has to sell it to somebody else for $9,000 instead of $10,000, he's going to come after you for the $1,000, and under the law be entitled to that $1,000.
You still end up saving $4,000.
You still end up. It's something you would want to weigh. Mm-hmm. So it's important to know that yes, you can get out. That it's extremely rare to actually force someone to do something that they have agreed to do contractually, but it's likely to cost you, and you have to weigh the reasons you want it out against what it's going to cost.
Now, I think we have time for one last question. So what would you say is the biggest misconception to the layperson about contract law?
Probably the biggest misconception is something I think I mentioned earlier, that a contract is always in writing. A close second, and probably one that causes problems more often for consumers than businesses, is this idea that you have a certain period of time after signing a contract to cancel the contract. It's only for certain specific things where the consumer laws will provide for that. For most things, it's not the case, and there are a lot of consumers out there who think it is, who will say, can I get out of this before 72 hours? And often the answer is no.
Okay. Well, Professor Epstein, I see we're running out of time. This was very informative. I want to thank you for joining us tonight.
Well, thank you for having me.
And again, I'm Clifford A. Marin with the Media Reporter. We'll see you next time. Thank you.